This is the brand spanking new Always Pan Pro from Our Place, and it is a really weird pan. The flagship feature is this new titanium oxide coating that Our Place calls No-Co. According to Our Place, it's a completely new breed of nonstick that doesn't have the health concerns or fragility issues of a PTFE, and it also lasts longer than a ceramic sol gel coating like Our Place's other pans. That sounds pretty good, but before we get into the scores, let's talk about what this pan isn't. One, it's not actually made of titanium. There's a little bit of titanium in it, actually a tiny amount, and only in that nonstick coating. The pan itself is a tri-ply stainless steel construction. We love that construction. It's great, it's versatile, it's way better than Our Place's other pans. But we also know that some people are gonna look at their product page where it says Titanium Always Pan Pro, and they're gonna think, oh, this pan's made of titanium. That's not the case. Two, it's not Heston Nanobond. A bunch of y'all reached out in our DMs to ask us about, is this Heston's patent finally expiring? Is this like the first pan in that category? No. In fact, as far as I can tell, the only similarity between the two coatings is that they're titanium based, and that's a pretty broad category. While we're here, shout out to my friendly neighborhood patent examiner, Ellen, who helped me track down the patent behind this coating so I could find out the exact compound and how it's applied. Thank you, Ellen. Three, it's not hexclad. I know it looks like hexclad, but that's just the little hexagons. They're actually a different shape and they're using a different material altogether. Hexclad uses PTFE inside each little hex, whereas this uses titanium oxide, which is a compound found in tons of stuff. Frosting whitener, for example, sunscreen, paint. The important thing is that titanium oxide is less sticky than stainless steel, although it is still more sticky than PTFE. And four, it's not non-stick, at least not in the traditional sense. It definitely requires fat. Our Place says to use at least a teaspoon of high smoke point oil to activate the non-stick. In fact, they even recommend oiling it before storage. Now that's not necessarily bad, and it's not unheard of for a material like carbon steel or cast iron, but it is pretty weird for a pan marketed as non-stick. With that out of the way, let's get into some scores. First, it's oven safe. Although Our Place seems a bit confused about what temperature it is oven safe to. The care booklet that came with the pan said it was oven safe up to 575 degrees Fahrenheit. Fine, that seems a little low for anything that doesn't have plastic in it, but sure, whatever. But their website says it's safe up to 1000 degrees Fahrenheit, or 750 degrees Fahrenheit, depending on the finish. I guess the gold finish is a bit more temperamental. Either way, that's not reassuring. Second, it's metal utensil friendly, and that seems kind of obvious. Titanium oxide is harder than stainless steel and way, way harder than PTFE or ceramic sol gel, so kind of a no-brainer. Third, and this is the big one for a lot of you, it's dishwasher safe. I've run this through the dishwasher twice now, and both times it's come out fine. It's not really that surprising. Now, this mirrored chrome finish in combination with our hard LA water really has a tendency to show off the water spots, but no matter your water quality, this thing is a fingerprint magnet. Mirrored finishes aren't for me in general, but this one comes with a gigantic domed lid that reflects everything and is extremely hard to photograph.
You're really in the shot. Back up, back up. Back up, back up, crouch down actually. Try that. Perfect. Now you're out of the shot.
I only mention that because aesthetic is so key to Our Place's brand. It feels a little out of character for them to ship a finish that's gonna require constant buffing and awkward angles in order to photograph well. I think it's important for a lot of Our Place's demo to know that it's gonna take just a ton of work to keep this thing looking half as good as it did coming out of the box. Care gets a 3. Forgetting the chrome, the Always Pan Pro still uses that absolutely god-awful, patented for some reason, Always Pan design. Complete with a hole in the side of the pan, the stupid spoon rest, and the accompanying shitty wooden spatula whose best use is as a mildly risky dog toy. But don't worry, no fries were harmed in the making of this video. But now we're working with tri-ply stainless, and that means reworking the lid and handles. On the Always Pan 2.0, the handle was a screwed-on aluminum assembly with some paint issues. Credit to Our Place, these pans don't have those same issues. The fact that this improvement is due to a complete lack of paint notwithstanding, of course. The new handles are a cast stainless steel number welded directly to the body of the pan. They're slightly more rounded and therefore a bit more comfortable than the old handles, but they're also incredibly slippery when wet. The handles are so slippery. The lid is the same one you know, but now made out of super thin stainless steel. That may just be to keep weight down, but it's also the thinnest lid I've ever tested at 0.7 millimeters. When that thin of steel is used for such a massive surface area, it just feels a little flimsy. The hidden screw mechanism for the handle is clever and a nice touch, but the rim is now so short that it doesn't seal the steam vent. Ever. Even with a towel. For me, that's an absolutely crucial design flaw, because that's key functionality and there's no way around it. A regular pan without a lid can be sealed with a fucking sheet pan, a feat that's accomplished daily in kitchens around the world. But here, can't be done because of this worthless spoon rest. The weird thing to me is they didn't even cast the spoon rest as part of the handle. It's a separate part that's welded on afterward. I have so many questions about how these pans continue to ship when they're so poorly thought out. Design gets a 0. The performance, on the other hand, is pleasantly surprising, and it is fun to be surprised. At least for the first couple days, the Always Pan Pro's performance has exceeded my expectations. I don't always like Our Place, but that is better than I expected. I've made Subsea Polo with a nice crispy tahdig in it twice. The first came out perfect, the second only stuck in a couple of spots. I've also made crispy skinned fish and reverse seared chicken thighs with no sticking whatsoever. I even made a sunny side up egg and a French omelet just for testing purposes, and those worked great. That is all very impressive in my book. But, and here's a big but, if you look at the surface closely, you can tell it's not evenly finished. The pattern is stretched and in some places doubled around the edges. And then there's little bits of finish all over the surface that weren't removed properly. That level of quality control doesn't exactly scream reliable to me. So how do I trust that enough to recommend it to people? Then there's the ad campaign around it, which is just, it feels intentionally misleading. They have Michelin-starred balloon enthusiast Mike Bagale out here showing his whole ass making claims about this pan being indestructible, which I guess just means he hasn't touched the lid yet? Luckily for me, this is a convenient opportunity to remind you that you should never trust a chef publicly endorsing a product. A, they're getting paid to do it, and B, pro cooks don't cook the same way home cooks do. It's genuinely not even close, so even if they're not getting paid for it, they kind of don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Kitchen tools in a pro kitchen, kitchen tools in a home kitchen, even if they're the same tool, completely different use cases. This pan is, at least initially, pretty effective, but I am worried about its longevity, and Our Place's marketing is as whack as it always is. I mean, that's what the always is for. Fun gets a 3. As far as materials go, the important detail here is that titanium coating and its clever application. Where PTFE and ceramic sol gels are treatments that use clever chemistry to prevent sticking, the Always Pan Pro also uses a specific texture that induces a physical phenomenon known as the lotus effect in order to do some of the heavy lifting. A few pans have tried this before, mostly in the infomercial quality space.
Heritage Lotus Effect, built to last.
But as far as I know, none of them have combined that with this titanium oxide approach. And that combination appears to be a promising technology. The combination does work. But again, that application is so inconsistent that I'm just worried about longevity, which has always been the Always Pan's issue. Maybe that's what the Always stands for. And the more I look at that application, the more questions I have. The stretch pattern at the edges tells me that this pattern is applied before the pan is actually pressed into its final shape. But if the precisely spaced geometric texture is core to the performance, why would you apply it in such a way that it would stretch it out and deform that texture? And if that texture is supposed to be hydrophobic like a lotus leaf, why doesn't water bead up on it like other hydrophobic surfaces? If the pattern itself makes the pan non-stick, why would you need the titanium oxide coating anyway? Our Place says that the pan needs preheated, oiled, and that the food will release once it's cooked. That's just the same process as stainless steel, which is famously not a non-stick material. But on the other hand, food was fully released well before it was cooked in our initial tests. Is that implying that this will degrade to the performance of a regular stainless steel pan over time? Like I said, this pan is weird. As for the more normal pan stuff, the Always Pan Pro is advertised as a 3mm tri-ply pan construction, and kudos to Our Place, it actually stretches all the way to the edge. That's not super common, unequivocally, good job. I'm giving materials a 7 for now. This tech is potentially amazing, but it may also be bound for the trash heap in a few months like so many Always Pans before it. I expect to revisit the score one way or another in the coming months. For some folks, if this coating works, it's the holy grail of cookware. It promises to open up cooking to more people just by making it less fussy, and I think that's fantastic. But I also don't think Our Place will be the brand to make that happen.
It's more beautiful than I'd ever imagined.
I have not tested their toaster oven or their new blender, but I have tested every single Always Pan, the 1.0, the 2.0, the cast iron, and now this Always Pan Pro, and they all use this same awful anti-user design that they refuse to change. And if that doesn't bother you, the manufacturing quality should. At this point, nearly 4 years after I tested the first Always Pan, I just don't think they have it in them to produce a product that's actually worthy of their price point.
I can reach it.
Oh, and did I mention that this poorly made, terribly designed experimental pan costs $200? Value gets a 2. That brings my initial score to 3 out of 10, which is the highest scoring Always Pan yet. So there is that. For now, my advice would just be to wait and see if other, better manufacturers come out with this tech in the near future. Just like Hexclad, this patent-pending no-co coating, and yes, it's a coating by any definition of the word, no matter what Our Place says, is a licensed patent. They don't own it. I can't be sure, but I suspect it's not an exclusive license because that would be prohibitively expensive. So I think we're about to see competitors with better manufacturing chops come out with these soon. If not, we can always hope that our place figures out how to design a decent pan.